We spend a lot of time inside of our home, breathing whatever is floating around in the house. The furniture, walls, and paint can leach so-called volatile organic compounds, VOCs, into the air, potentially making people sick. So it's important to consider the chemicals that are in the items that surround us. Jen and Rusty Stout have done exactly that with their company, Healthier Homes. They build homes and create interior designs using materials that are good for both the environment and the people living in the home. Check out this episode to learn what you need to be aware of when designing your home. Hey, Jen and Rusty, thank you so much for joining the Sustainability Champions podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to be here, Daniel. Appreciate it.
And the way I like to start these conversations is going big picture and getting a broad overview, really, of what you're doing and basically kind of getting the elevator pitch. So what exactly is Healthier Homes?
Well, where do we start? Rusty and we're healthy home builders. We're online retailers. We're authors. We're entrepreneurs. We wear a lot of different hats. And I think starting with some perspective as to why it is what we do will help us segue into explaining that a little bit more.
Okay.
We were in High Point a couple weeks ago. It's High Point, North Carolina, where they have the big furniture show every year, twice a year. And they, the Sustainable Furnishings Council put on this tour, sustainability tour, where we visited different showrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, coming from a health and wellness and a green background, it was so interesting to hear straight from these manufacturers the amount of good that they're doing and change that's happening on the whole, you know, eco-friendly sustainability front. I was astounded to learn that the forests up in the Northeast have actually regenerated over 100%. So I think what they said, 10 years.
Yeah.
There's more trees now than there used to be. So that's just one small example of a really big impact. And it kind of made me start to think. I was like, you know, not only on an individual scale as far as, you know, recycling and purchasing products from responsible manufacturers and retailers, but also on a larger like company or factory standpoint, that it's all adding up. It's starting to work. You know, we're really seeing changes as far as the environment goes. And I started thinking, I looked up the definition of sustainability. It says ability to maintain or support a process continually over time. And obviously, from an environmental standpoint, we are maintaining and nurturing our beautiful earth, but there's something missing from this equation, and that is our indoor living environments. We've been so focused on what's going on outside in the world, which is just as important as what's going on inside of our homes. And that's kind of where Rusty and I have identified challenges, I guess you could say, and we're doing something about it. Just real quick background, I was in grad school, I got really sick. This was like over a decade ago. I was in Dallas, and for 3 years, no one could figure out what's wrong with me. And I found out that I had a really bad black mold problem in my apartment. And like, when I say sick, like I had to wear a wig, like I lost my hair. It was like, yeah. And so, yeah, well, I mean, I have my hair back. I've come a long way.
Glad to hear that, yeah.
Now she's turning mine gray.
I try not to. That's the baby monster. So I was trying to find a place to live where I didn't react to things. So I've become so sensitized to all chemicals, especially formaldehyde and petroleum solvents, everything you find inside of homes. And it didn't exist. And so I set out to build my first healthy home. And of course, it was life-changing. I could have a place to live where I didn't like have rashes all over my face, and I could heal. So Rusty is a longtime builder, and we decided to take this model and start to offer it to other people, because he's been in commercial construction and residential for years and years. So it was a leap of faith, and it's been pleasantly, surprisingly awesome. And we launched our first book, and with that, the book called Healthier Homes, we launched our website, Healthier Homes. because not only is building important, but furnishing your home, what goes inside of it, is just as important. And
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to make ourselves, like the people, sustainable too, not just the materials. You know, it's
right,
important for the people inside the house to be sustainable as well. So.
for their health, their well-being, and our longevity, your longevity, you know. So I think that sustainability is a two-pronged approach, and it's important to have healthy outside and healthy inside.
Yeah, well, thank you for outlining that, and Jen, I'm sorry that you went through that in order to get to this point. I'm glad it sounds like that was some time ago and you're clear on the other side of that now. But I think it's an important lesson for a lot of people, is that it's what you said, focusing on the indoor living environment. It is important to focus on the outside as well, but where we spend, for many people, the vast majority of our time is inside, and so it has to, where we live needs to be clean and healthy. And I think it's important to really think about what we put into our homes, because that's the air we breathe. And you mentioned, black mold, but also the chemical sensitivity. And I have learned, just by talking to other organizations who are in furnishings and furniture, et cetera, just how many chemicals are involved in conventional furniture, and the off-gassing, or how gas just leaks out of this thing. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because it seems like this is something that you have a lot of knowledge about and experience in terms of, you use the word challenges. What are the challenges that people can face from a health and, I suppose, sustainable point of view when it comes to the things you face: black mold, off-gassing, the materials that you put inside of your house?
It seems overwhelming.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, where do you start? But yeah, can you just outline some of those things just so we can get an idea of what we're working with?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you touched on it, like furniture. It's everybody has furniture in their home, and so when that furniture has chemicals or formaldehyde and it's continually outgassing, that is an issue. What we've done is provided a place where people can know that the furniture that we're sourcing, or that Jen has curated, is mostly solid wood. We kind of have a motto in our building company: if you can't buy it without chemicals, seal it up. And so we have a proprietary way of sealing things up so that they don't off gas anymore. What was interesting too at this high point when we did this tour, the furniture companies are starting to notice or take note of their upcoming, the people that are going to have the buying power in the near future, the millennials and the Gen Z, and they care about that stuff. And so it was really interesting to learn that all these big furniture manufacturers are taking the steps to change their processes, where they're not using as many chemicals. So that's very interesting.
You mentioned the furniture inside of your home and how it all is exponential. In our book, we talk about the bedroom model, where you have your bed, your backboard, your mattress, your side tables, your lamps, and then you look at the drywall and the paint. All these things add up. And if you look at the rate of chronic illness, it kind of sounds like doomsday, but it's true. The rate of chronic illness goes the same as like our houses being more and more shut up, as far as like air coming in and out, because for good reason, it's for energy conservation. But as builders, that was one of our primary challenges, is what do we do about that? And instead of, we can't build against energy codes, and nor do we want to. So it's important to start looking at, okay, if I can't, if you can't beat them, you join them. Like, what are you going to do to mitigate something that you can't control? And so that would be everything that goes in the house. Start looking at just like you said, all your furnishings. And if you repaint, painting is an excellent way to cover all your walls. I mean, it's the biggest surface in your home.
Choosing the right paint, obviously, focusing on indoor, the air systems and stuff like that is a big deal for us. Mm-hmm. And one thing I would, because Jim mentioned it does sound like doomsday, but like what we set out to do is to prove that it is doable. and it's not doomsday. It can still be, you can still have a beautiful home. You can still have all the normal function of your house that you want. And it's just a matter of, selecting the right stuff and taking the time to really think about it, and, or, having someone like us help you out too.
Yeah, and actually, that's exactly what I was going to ask next. Is if someone were to work with you and with your company, Healthier Homes, what exactly would you do with them? How does your process work? What can people really expect if they were to work with the two of you to make a healthier home?
Yeah, so I mean, at the basic level, Healthier Homes is really a place with a lot of curated, home furnishings, furniture. We have our own line of paint that we sell that is really true zero VOC. And it also acts as the primers that we have act as a sealer, so you can put it directly over your current paint and it'll completely seal it up. No more outgassing.
That was quintessential to us being able to build healthy homes, was the paint. And it's the same paint we've been using forever. It's just we decided to start marketing it because it's so important to be able to seal up surfaces like lumber, for example. Lumber off gases terpenes and formaldehyde naturally. It doesn't make it a bad product. We use a ton of lumber in construction, but we seal it up with a sealer. And so, it's these little things that all add up, and we've had to develop a process, unfortunately, because I was so sensitive to everything, but it works. It looks pretty. It doesn't look like, a sterile hospital or
It's
something.
not a mud hut, or, it's not made of sticks or whatever, but
Can I just jump?
that's like the basic level. Now, if somebody wanted to build a house, that's a whole nother, we could talk about that for hours as well. But, Healthier Homes is kind of like the putting your foot in the door. There's a ton of info that we've put out there. Obviously, we have a book that's kind of a great intro into just really starting the conversation and really getting those juices flowing of, okay, how do I approach this? What are my needs? What, this is what I want to accomplish. So.
Thank you. And so, because the term off gassing, I know I said it as well, but what exactly is off gassing? And you've mentioned sealing things up now a couple of times. So obviously, it's a very important component of having a healthier home. So what is off gassing as a starting point? And yeah.
Sure. It's like basically we've all heard of VOCs, volatile organic compounds. It's a little bit of a misnomer. We like to look at HAPs, hazardous air pollutants. They both off gas, meaning that, like, say you have a chair with formaldehyde on it. Whenever the formaldehyde, I guess, breaks down is a way to say it, it releases, and it's always releasing. That's the thing. That's what makes it volatile. It's just like that. And water, I mean, I think technically water could be a VOC too, because it steams. So that's where, like, the VOCs kind of become like, is vinegar bad? No, it's a VOC. But hazardous air pollutants, I think, are where the conversation needs to be steered, and you want to stay away from those because they off gas, meaning that it's like a invisible gas that gets in your house, kind of like radon. And unless you let it out, it just compounds. And so going back to the houses being so tight nowadays due to building restrictions, then you have formaldehyde from all sorts of different little surfaces, like your walls, everything, and it compounds the effect. And it really is it's a sensitizer, kind of like mold was for me. People get allergies, they get irritated. There's a lot of other things that cause cancer in building products, and again, that's off gassing. So having a good air conditioning system and HVAC system is key, and that's the first thing I would recommend people look at. You can talk more about the HVAC.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to directly answer the question about the VOCs and HAPs, I think where Jim was going with that is, like, VOCs do off gas, but there's plenty of products that claim to be low or no VOC, and we could look at the ingredients and pick it apart in about 2 minutes and be like, this is not good for you. It might not be considered a VOC, but it is a harmful.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Product, and so
a whole list of exempt VOCs. And so sadly, there's people going to like I won't say names, but big box stores and buying paint that says low, no VOC on it, and it has ammonia, acetone. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things. That's why our paint was so important to get straight. So,
and it's used formaldehyde in construction materials and furniture too, is used in everything because it's like a curing compound. It makes stuff dry fast. It makes stuff set up quick. And so the sealing for us is essential. And so we basically seal the entire cavity of a home when we build a home. People, if they have a piece of furniture that they want to keep, that's maybe solid or not solid wood, but maybe like a wood veneer or something, we have clear coats that they could use and put on there, and it would seal it up. And so, I mean, I wish I had like a catchy, like a Ron Popeil phrase, like seal it and forget it, something like that. But that's really true. I mean, that's
something for the next book, I guess.
yeah, right.
Yeah. But it sounds to me, I mean, like the sealing and the off-gassing, as from the point of view of priorities, first thing to do, it seems like that's the place to start. And if you're going to focus on the most important area in a home, it seems like, based on Jen, you said that the walls are the biggest surface area in the house. Seems like if there's one thing that you should do, or if there's only one thing you can do, sealing the walls is probably the most important one. Is that a fair statement, or would you start somewhere else?
I totally agree. I mean, the paint seals the walls too. And so whatever is behind your walls, which in some houses it's like scary stuff, it would help tremendously with that. But I mean, I think it all adds up to, like, if you have an old mattress and it's time to get a new one, you spend a third of your life sleeping, get a mattress that doesn't have, heavy metals in it. Arsenic is used like in mass manufacturing all the time, and sleeping on arsenic just doesn't sound appealing to me. So it's like, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
And I mean, I don't want it to all be scary and doom. I mean,
it's just the mindset,
Okay.
Like if you eat healthy, you work out, think about what's around your house.
Yeah, and then I think to that point, on your website, you call yourselves the Whole Foods for your house. And I like that term because it kind of Whole Foods is all about having a healthy body, both on the inside and outside. And it sounds like what you're doing with Healthier Homes is the same idea. It's all about having a healthy living space. And so, I mean, mattress, paint, there's so many things to think about. And just to make things more complicated, if a product says low or no VOC, actually it sounds like that doesn't really mean very much. It seems really overwhelming. I mean, is your website and your book a good place to start kind of understanding what to think about? Because if I do want to buy a new mattress, I didn't even think about that. Sounds like perhaps getting an organic mattress and investing in that is a good place to go, but it's really overwhelming. I'm starting to look around this room here and just thinking, oh wow, there's probably who knows what I'm breathing in right now. I actually don't want to know. But yeah, how does someone just like go about, if I'm living in this place, there's all this furniture, what do I do?
Well, I think that's where our book is helpful, because we really approached it that way it's not like a catch-all, right? It's broken out into sections. So let's say that today you wanted to think about, well, let's look at painting my house, and you can go right there. It's not meant, we'd love everyone to read it cover to cover, but you can treat it as just like an appendix or something. Mm-hmm. You wanted to buy a mattress, you could go to there and we talk about that. You want to buy furniture, we talk about that. You want to pick out a new piece of property for your future home, we talk about that. I mean, so it's
consideration.
Yeah, it's whatever, you don't have to try to take it all at once in one big bite. I mean, you can really break it up. And
the first half of the book is about finding your property, designing and building a home in a healthy way. And then the second half of the book is about furnishing it and the flow and the things that happen after you move into your house.
Mm-hmm. And as a little bit of a teaser, just to get a bit of an understanding of what's in the book, if we can go into detail just a bit, are there any specific questions that someone should be asking if they're looking to buy or rent a new place? Because Jen, to your point about how this whole thing started with the black mold, I imagine had you known that, you wouldn't have moved in there. Or certainly now.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't be
So,
doing this today, but still, I don't think I would have moved in there.
so are there any kind of questions that people should always be asking themselves, whether it's moving into a new place or when buying furniture? Are there like one or two things that you definitely need to make sure, think about this, look into this,
So for moving into a new place, I think looking at whether a place is flooded, asking about the history of the property, and if it has flooded, was it remediated properly? Because you could remediate and be fine if it's caught early and done the right way. And then two, what's around you? Like not only like factories, obviously you don't want to be downwind of like a factory that has, pollutants, but the watershed, which can be fixed. You don't want a bunch of water from your neighbor's house gushing into your house. Like it all is a matter of, okay, what's my budget? Do I have enough in my budget to create, whatever it is, you like a wall or a swell or, things just to keep the water at bay, because that happened recently to some homeowners. So we know. And then budgeting too for replacing HVAC components. I think I know it's harder whenever you rent, but
Air purifier. I mean,
yeah, air purifiers work so well.
yeah. There's, I think it's important for people to realize while sure it would be awesome to do everything 100% all the time. I mean, we're realistic to know that, not everyone can afford that. Not everyone has a choice in where their apartment might be next to a factory or whatever. That might be what they can afford. So there's still things that people can do, just to, you do everything you can, right, to try to be healthy. So.
And
yeah,
when you ask about furniture too, um, obviously going online and looking at the manufacturers, a responsible manufacturer should outline, or a retailer should outline the product and give you as much information as possible. And I always look for suppliers and partners that give back and that, are donating to, or what am I trying to say? Like, we actually just signed up with Ocean Co, for example. They pull plastic and recycle it. Plastic that is
Ocean
destined to go to the ocean, which is, I guess, how some countries dispose of their plastic. And so for every gallon of paint that we sell or any construction product, we're donating funds to fund the equivalent of 100 bottles to be recycled. And so I look for other partners or retailers whenever I'm buying things that do that kind of thing, because to me, I think that really speaks a lot about their processes, their internal processes too.
and what is next for healthier homes? You've written books, you're building things, you're advising people.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, but clearly, I would imagine there's a lot more work to do. And I think, to your point, when you were in High Point, North Carolina, manufacturers are changing, things are moving forward. I imagine there's still a lot of work to do. So, yeah, what would you say is next, or what do you want to tackle moving forward?
For me, it would be being a part of that change in that industry. I feel like we have a product in our paints and coatings that they could probably use in their furniture. And I feel like there's big opportunity there. There's big opportunity there. On our building side, we've kicked around the idea for a while about doing like healthier neighborhoods, where if we can do small developments and we provide the housing, and you have a community of like-minded individuals that aren't gonna spray pesticides on their lawn next to you on a windy day, or something like that. And so there's a lot of things. Jen and I think we do good at keeping an eye for the future, but also focusing on the present and making sure what we are doing is still going well. So that's what I'm thinking about. I don't, Jen might have a different answer.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think the healthy developments would be really cool
Yeah.
someday because there's nothing else out there like it, and anyone can benefit from living in a healthy home. And so that's, I think prices are coming down a little bit. Our, like, I guess, what's the word? It's difficult. It's like, do you buy the land and then do you get investors, or do you get investors and then go out and buy the land?
I think they call that the chicken or the egg.
So that's kind of where we're at on that.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. I think both are valid. It's just yeah, it's probably harder to get the investors first, but it's safer, which is why it's more difficult because it's riskier for the investors. But the idea of having these healthier neighborhoods, I think, is really cool because first of all, you get a bunch of people who move in together who are all with the same values, have the same ideas in terms of this is what's important to me. You know, if they're moving into an area like that, it wouldn't cross their mind to use pesticides or, you know, Roundup or whatever, because it's just not who would live in a place like that. And then also together, you know, to your point earlier about where you living downwind from or downstream from, you're all in one community together. So you know who your neighbors are and how it all works. And it's all part of the, yeah, kind of value system of everyone living there, which is, I think, really cool. I'd love to live in a place like that, just knowing that. And then everyone there, I imagine, will be thinking, okay, here's the type of furniture I want to buy, so you can start sharing furniture, and then recycling, composting. It's like all of these things become sort of just normal, and you don't have to fight for it because it's just the way everyone thinks.
I
And
love
Yeah,
that.
no,
Yeah.
that's a great way to put it, Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to steal that.
Please,
You know,
yeah,
it'd be
I
like
think
yoga
it's
classes and
exactly.
meditation.
You could have
Yeah, you said something about the furniture and sharing furniture and stuff. I didn't realize they were on this deal that we did this tour. We met this father-son team, and they do really high-end, like solid wood furniture.
Mhm.
And they were talking about why they call them heirloom pieces. And he said, why do we still do this even though everyone else is kicking our butts because they're building cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. And they said that furniture now makes up 20% of like the landfills in the United States because people
Wow.
are making cheap furniture. It doesn't last, and they're just, they're tossing it. Where, if you think about like at your grandma's house, there was always like this solid cherry, dresser, and it's passed down from their grandparents, and it's just not that way anymore. But I
That's
think these
right.
people are changing it because their stuff actually looked cool. Grandma's stuff didn't really look cool. I wouldn't have wanted it
Yeah.
either.
Yeah,
I was,
that's the tricky thing with getting yeah, furniture passed down, is it doesn't necessarily look good. You may be great quality, but yeah,
Yeah.
taste change and style changes. But yeah, I mean, I that's crazy. 20% of landfill is filled with furniture. And there is something really nice about having a beautiful piece of furniture that it's more expensive, but it'll last a lifetime or even more. And it's really, really solid, and you buy it once and then you never have to think about buying it again,
right. That
which is
used
very
to be
cool.
the mindset in like the 50s, the 60s. It was all about getting heirloom pieces, and that's what furniture was. And now like it's mass manufacturing, and we don't do any particle board, no what's the other one? MDF. And a lot of furniture, I'd say probably 95% of the furniture out there is made with that stuff. It's basically like sawdust with a bunch of glue. And I get it. It doesn't, like, wood can warp, but that's what gives it its beauty. We had a lady that was upset about her, the the cutting boards. She's like, I don't really like the craftsmanship of them. It was earlier this week. And I had to explain to her, these are handmade. A lot of our stuff is handmade. And that's because they use a lot less glues and finishes, and it's unique. And so, embracing that character and avoiding using things that just make everything look exactly the same, I think that it's kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it has a story too, which is always nice. Well, I love what you're sharing, and I think it's really important, going back to this idea of thinking about your indoor environment. And we, like we've been talking about, we spend so much time inside, especially during COVID, but even regularly. I mean, you want to relax at home, you sit on your couch, watch TV, whatever the case may be. You're constantly surrounded by all of these things that you're breathing in. So it's really important to think about these things. And for anyone who wants to learn more about what it means to have a healthier home, or to read your book, or even to hire you if they're looking to build a house or a healthy neighborhood, or just doing some remodeling internally, where's the best place for people to go and learn more about you and your work?
Our websites, js2partners.com and healthierhomes.com. JS2 Partners is the name of our construction company. We're based in Central Texas, and we build all around the Central Texas area. And Healthier Homes is, it's available to everybody. That's why we wrote the book, so we could disseminate this information and help to educate people how to better their living environments, and then also give them access to shop confidently and find things that they know. It's like Whole Foods. You're not going to get something with nasty preservatives in it. They have strict rules and regulations. Furniture is not always so cut and dry because the chain of custody is a little bit harder to trace. So that's why we curate our collections of just like natural, handmade, natural fibers.
And we're going to these people, and we're meeting them, and we're seeing who's making it, who's supplying it. And so it's not like, oh, that's pretty, let's put it on our website and sell it. Like we've met them, we know. I guess I'm kind of old school that way anyway, where if I'm doing business with someone, I'd like to sit across the table from them at least one time to see what they're about, and which is most of the time more important than what they're offering. It's what they're about. So.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And it's hard to judge someone just based on their website. It's easy to make a website and make it say whatever or what you think people want to hear, but actually, to your point, Rusty, sitting down in front of someone, actually shaking their hand, looking them in the eye, and having a conversation and asking questions and seeing, are they being honest or not? I think that's really, or if they're willing, and they should be, if they're being honest, show me your process. I'd love to actually see, how do you make an heirloom piece of furniture? Then you can really see, they're real, and you can confidently recommend that to your clients and talk about it in your books, etc. So it's good to hear, and it's really important to know that that's your process, so that if someone does go to healthierhomes.com and wants to buy some furniture, they can be confident that it actually matches what you're saying it does.
We
have a canary in the coal mine too.
That's right.
She's so sensitive to things, and so unfortunately, it's nice that to me, the thing that makes our business really what it is Jen's experience, what she went through, and the fact that we've turned it into something positive. To me, that just adds that much more credibility to it, that we're not just out here trying to ride a gimmick. Like this is how we live. This is life. And so we're very passionate about it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and for going through this with me today. I think, as I mentioned, it's really important to think about what goes inside of your home. And I love that you're being so that you've gotten into so many different areas about the home. It's not just furniture, but it's also how you build it, what goes into the actual construction, how you paint it. It's really from A to Z. And that's fantastic. So thank you for your work and for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed chatting, and hopefully people can get some good takeaways.
I hope so too. It's an important conversation and important to think about. So thank you both very much.
Yeah, thank you.